the diamond it loves feel. We're giving you the breakdowns, the bets, and the hot takes from the perspective of two former OU Athletics employees. You're listening to the Mainline Podcast with Tyler Burton and Adam Jaquez.
Let's go! Let's go! Go!
Not one, not two, not three, but 4 national titles in a row for your Oklahoma Sooners softball team. I'm Adam Jaquez. He's Tyler Burton. Thank you for joining us on a special edition of the Main Line, live right after Game 2 of the Women's College World Series as Oklahoma clinches the entire series over the University of Texas. Tyler, I don't think I was expecting this. I don't know where to even begin, but Oklahoma comes out, and this was the team that we've been looking for all year, and they showed up at exactly the right time.
It's been absolutely unbelievable, Adam. I know that it's been a couple of weeks since I've been on this podcast. And, Adam, I didn't realize fully how long it had actually been until I'd been on here with you, until I opened up the Google Doc and realized that the last episode we were actually previewing Oklahoma's regional in baseball was actually going into the Big 12 tournament. But, what a time to come back. What a time to do our first episode together in quite some time. As Oklahoma goes on to win their 4th straight national championship, the 8th national championship for Patty Gasso. We'll talk about that here in just a minute, try to put that into perspective of how, just historical or how mind-blowing that is, an accomplishment for a coach, for a program, and for this senior class. But it's, again, where do we really want to start with this? We've talked about this team, over the last couple of months. It kind of felt like something was missing. I don't know if it was they were playing down to their competition, or there was just kind of one missing ingredient that it just kind of felt like this team didn't have compared to the previous 3 teams that were able to win a national championship. And we just kind of talked about how Patty was essentially just kind of in a mode where it's okay, let's just get him to Oklahoma City. Let's just figure out a way. Let's go through regionals. Let's figure out a way to beat Florida State in the Supers. Let's get to Oklahoma City. That way, this is led by 10 seniors. This is a veteran type team that has always finished their season winning the last game. So they know what it takes to get here. They know that when they step in the lines up there in Oklahoma City in the Women's College World Series, they know how to crank it up one more degree. And they just simply, everything was firing on all cylinders at the right time. The bats, the defense, the pitching. Adam, let's throw it back over to you, man. This is just a fantastic all-around performance, and we'll try to put this in perspective here in just a little bit, but I think that this has the opportunity. It at least has to be talked about that this is the greatest class in softball history, maybe the best overall class in collegiate sports.
I put it in the live chat for those watching on YouTube, but I'm curious what everyone's favorite moment from this game was. Harry saying the former Aggie pitcher Maxwell getting the most outstanding player. I think that's a good one. I guess most outstanding player of the entire series, because she really only came in for the last 2 innings or so there.
Yeah.
But overall, the pitching was excellent tonight. Even Karlie Keeney, I think Patty probably left her in a little bit too long, but I thought she was effective. She did her job there, and she had her moment. Coming into this World Series, she had pitched just 1 out against Florida in Oklahoma City. Only pitched, I think, 3.2 innings prior to that in the postseason. So it was kind of quietly that 4th pitcher, it felt like, throughout this postseason. But she came in there. She did give up some walks, and it did end up hurting her a little bit. But overall, I thought she was pretty effective for what we needed her to do. Same thing with Nicole May. She came out there and really slammed the door there in the 5th and the 6th inning. And even though she faced some adversity in the 6th, she walked a player. She came right back with a strikeout. She let up, a single where Riley Boone kind of took a weird angle on that one that went to the outfield there. But then Nicole May comes right back with a strikeout. I feel like she probably had some of her best moments as a Sooner there at the very end after an entire year of, okay, what's going on with Nicole May? Why isn't she what we thought she was a year ago? But she saved her best for this final series. Same thing with Kelly Maxwell. Same thing with pretty much everyone on the team.
Nicole May's best moments in Oklahoma uniform, you could maybe argue that they were against the University of Texas, and they were definitely at the Women's College World Series. And Adam, we've talked about it on this podcast, over the last couple of months. It did feel like, timely hitting was something that Oklahoma was just simply not being able to execute at the right time, or there was an error or something that would just simply, it kept them from being able to, get the car out of neutral and get it full steam ahead. But when you really try to look at this team as a whole over the last week of the season, clutch moments from everyone. It was a total team effort to get this thing done. You start with Sydney Sanders, who had been struggling at the plate for most of the back half of the season. I know that she had 10 home runs in the month of March, but really after that, it kind of fell off, and everybody was just kind of wondering, when is Sydney going to get it back? And she breaks out of her slump here in a big way at the Women's College World Series, capped off by a huge 3 RBI double tonight to give Oklahoma the 5-3 lead in the 4th inning. Cassidy Pickering, the true freshman, multiple home runs, multiple timely hits in Oklahoma City. Karlie Keeney, like you alluded to, Adam. Patty Gasso trusting in her, giving the Sooners a couple of really good innings to get the game started, and then she hands the ball over to Peyton Monticelli, who hasn't pitched in close to over a month now, to get out of a bases-loaded jam to keep the game tied. Ella Parker, just straight up dog, if I think that's probably the best way to sum it up. And then Avery Hodge, give the credit where credit's due. I know Kelly Maxwell, Jada, Tiare, Kinsey Hansen, Brito, Boone, all of these girls, rightfully so, are getting all these accolades, but I can't say enough good things about Avery Hodge and the job that she did coming in for an injured Alina Torres, delivering time after time on defense, on the base path, being aggressive, timely hits that either started or kept the rallies going. And like you talked about, Adam, the person that I'm the happiest for right now is Kelly Maxwell. All season long, basically ever since she decided to make the announcement that she was transferring from Stillwater to come down to Norman to join this Oklahoma Sooners softball program in hopes of winning a national championship, something that she was not able to do in Stillwater with Kenny Gillespie. She made the decision, as tough as it was, living in this state, going from an in-state rival to its other rival, also occupying the same state as well, just down south of I-35. But the fact that Kelly Maxwell was able to overcome a lot of the hate, a lot of the pressure, a lot of the outside noise that was talked about, and she struggled early in the season. If you ask her, she wasn't pitching to the level that she knew that she was going to be able to get to, the level that we just saw her, over the last 2 to 3 days in Oklahoma City. But she was able to put all the pieces together at the right amount of time. And not only did she throw the fantastic game against Florida, not only was she dominant in game 1 against Texas, but she was actually able to come out there and get the final 4 outs to wrap this thing up for Oklahoma. So I'm extremely happy for Kelly Maxwell, the fact that it does come full circle here, and she's able to leave her collegiate career with a national championship ring on her finger.
You gotta love that. Yeah, just the way that her team and her previous team and previous fan base treated her, and to see her go all the way and not fall short the way that every OSU team has in Oklahoma City. I think that's pretty special for her. I know she grew up as an OU fan. I'm sure a lot of OU softball players wish they would have been recruited by OU out of high school, and for her to have that moment was pretty special. Yeah. But there was moments for pretty much everyone, as we'll take a look at the reel here for those watching on YouTube. But Cassidy Pickering hitting the home run, Ella Parker hitting the double that cleared the bases later on. Sydney Sanders, her first non-home run hit since May 11th, also against Texas, also in this stadium for the Big 12 championship. So there was some big moments across the board for a lot of different players. And then I think on the flip side, you saw Texas make some unusual errors. We saw Riley Boone get that bunt single down to first base there, where the first baseman had to really come up and field that. No one was able to get over and cover the bag there. She was able to get on base. That ended up being a run later on. And then you saw, Avery Hodge wearing a pitch, that then she ended up scoring a moment later. So there were lots of little moments here and there where it's like, okay, Texas just felt a little bit off. And I think you really felt that when Nicole May came in the top of the 5th inning. She went 1, 2, 3. And I think we were all a little bit nervous in our group text about like, okay, is this the right move to go to May? But she came in, she shut down. You could feel the energy just absolutely building in the crowd. Yeah. And then you saw the exact opposite happening in the body language of the Texas Longhorns. You saw kind of that just inevitable feeling that you get when this is the team that we all thought OU was. Yeah. And I don't think we've really seen this team much all year, maybe a game here or there, but they all came together all at the perfect time here at the end of the season to play their best softball of the year, really. Almost everybody did. And you kind of felt like just the energy level just drained out of Texas in that 5th inning, to the point of like, oh, like we can't do anything. And it was amazing to watch.
So what you're saying is it almost sounds like Patty Gasso knows what she's doing. and pushing all the right buttons at the right amount of time. Adam, I know that, this is something that everybody on social media throughout the entire Oklahoma fan base has been talking about really since game one came to an end last night is, okay, what do you do in the circle if you're Patty Gasso? Do you go back to Kelly Maxwell to try to close this thing out in two? Do you go with a Nicole May? Do you go with a Kirsten Deal? No, we're going to throw Karlie Keeney out there. She's going to throw a couple of innings, and then, we're going to go to Peyton Monticelli in the biggest high-pressure, stressful moment of the game. We're going to go over to a girl that hasn't pitched, really since the the beginning or the later part of April to come in and get the final out. But again, it's just, you knew that the stars were going to show up. You knew what you were going to get from Jada, from Tiare, Kinsey, Brito, Boone. You knew they were going to be able to crank it up another notch on the biggest stage in the sport. But what made the difference, what put Oklahoma over the top? It was the freshmen. It was the role players. It was the quality, competitive depth, to steal a term from Brent Venables, that Oklahoma was able to utilize in their lineup on defense, but also in the circle as well, with Oklahoma throwing out 5 arms tonight to be able to close this thing out to get the win over Texas and win the program's 4th national championship. And Adam, I want to read a statistic to you and then talk me off of this, because again, this could be recency bias. This could have some legitimate claim to it. 235 wins, 15 losses, 4 national championships, 41-4 in the NCAA tournament. This is the greatest senior class in Oklahoma softball history. This is the greatest class in the sport of collegiate softball. This is the greatest class in OU athletics history across the board. All sorts, does not matter. And I think that an argument can be made when you look at the titles, you look at the stats, you look at the records, you look at the overall pure dominance of your sport over the course of 4 years. This is one of the greatest classes in NCAA history across all sports.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd have to go with something in women's sports to say the greatest class in all of sports, simply because, the men go off to the pros early in basketball and football. So you don't often see people sticking together for a super long time. I think that's going to be hard to beat. I don't know what else might rival that. I'm not like a UConn women's basketball aficionado to know everything about it.
Right.
But yeah, that's got to be tough for them to match. And I don't know how they would measure, all of the senior classes, because if I was just double checking to make sure. Yeah, because Riley Boone and Kinsey Hansen are both 5th-year seniors. They got the COVID year. So I don't know how you would count all of that necessarily. And Kelly Maxwell transferred in, and some others like Alyssa Brio transferred in. So I don't know how you would consider all of that, but extremely impressive for those that have been here for the last just 4 years. And Shari Jennings and Jada Coleman kind of leading the way there. Just insane. And it kind of makes you think like, well, I guess when I was a little nervous and maybe questioning what was going on like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, it's like, oh, well, yeah, they're pretty stinking good.
Well, I think the thing that really sticks out to me, Adam, and we could have an entire episode on this, and we probably will next week. Now that we've had some time to kind of digest this, we'll have a chance to hear from Patty, hear from the girls, especially the senior class that have been the driving force of this program for the last 4 years. But the thing that really sticks out to me is, it's not that Oklahoma is just simply talented or they're better than everybody else. Yes, are they an extremely talented, team from top to bottom, defense, offense, pitching? Yes, 100%. But it's the fact that, Patty Gasso, she talks about this championship mindset and the culture that she's built in Oklahoma over the last, multiple decades, and how you're able to run a program where, if you want to just talk about pitching, you're able to go from, Paige Parker to G Juarez to, Paige Lowry, Alex Storako, hand things over to Kelly Maxwell. And then now you've got yourself in a position where, not only do you have a stud ace in Kelly Maxwell, but you've got a veteran, a 4th-year senior in Nicole May that's been in all of those big time moments. And by the way, they're prepping and they're getting a girl like Karlie Keeney or Kirsten Deal. They're ready to take the reins. And then you look at the position players. It almost kind of feels like, when is the star power just simply going to run out in Norman? Because you went from Lauren Chamberlain, then you went to Jocelyn Allo, all the all-time greats in an Oklahoma uniform, some of the all-time greats in softball history with the amount of All-Americans that have come through this program. It's just simply amazing that Oklahoma's been able to, continue this long, sustained level of success over the last, decade or so, especially within the last 4 to 5 years. And again, it's hard not to. Let me step back here. Of course, tonight is one huge party. The accomplishment, what this team just did, what Patty Gasso and this program have built, it's all time. It's one of the all-time best dynasties in sports history. Scott Van Pelt was just talking about that on his late night show. But again, it just kind of gets you into a situation of, okay, how much more can we expect, and how is Patty Gasso going to continue to keep this thing rolling? Because like we've talked about, they've got 10 seniors that are losing this program. And now going into next season, even though we just watched Jada and Tiare, Kinsey, Brito, Boone, Nicole May, and so many more just play their final game in an Oklahoma uniform. And maybe we do need to have an episode about that where we really kind of, peel the layer back and, really dive into, the level of appreciation and greatness that we've saw from this senior class over the last 4 years. But again, it's sad that we just witnessed the final game for so many of these amazing players and so many amazing young women. But yeah, I mean, this is a huge night for Oklahoma. It's a huge night historically for collegiate softball, for the state of Oklahoma, for Patty Gasso, for Joe Castiglione, President Harris. I'm just super, super excited, super thankful. And, what an awesome sport, what an awesome program, and really just what an awesome team to be a fan of right now.
Yeah. 4 straight national championships in a row. This one a little bit different than the previous 2 years because you had Jordy Ball, the makeup of that team. You had Jocelyn Allo a few years ago. And then year one was, I believe, G. Juarez was the leading pitcher on that particular team. And then you had, what is now seniors now. They were freshmen then. So a little bit different makeup of those teams as you transition through those 4 years. They're not completely the same people leading every single time. Do you think, though? Well, I guess I feel like the championship series, Texas was a lot better than we saw 2 years ago. It was a much, much closer matchup this time. I feel like OU, even though the game was close tonight, they relatively had good control of the game throughout most of the matchup. Last night, OU controlled that one pretty well throughout. So maybe winning this series wasn't the hardest, but do you think the journey or the pathway to get to this title was harder than the other 3 previously?
I think that you could make the claim, and Patty kind of talked about it in her post-game interview with Holly Rowe, and this was probably the most difficult run, but it's also probably the most gratifying championship over the last 4 years, just because of simply all that they had to overcome, where, it's hard to win one national championship.
Did we lose Tyler?
Take a step back. We know how good we are. We know what the end goal is. And I know that, we're chomping at the bit. We're trying to win a 4th consecutive national championship. And I almost think that the stress of not losing, simply just because you don't want this thing to come to an end, you don't want to succumb to the pressure, you don't want this thing to come to an end. I think that that's kind of simply what probably the biggest thing that weighed on this team over the course of the last 4 to 5 months. But the fact that they were able to go into Oklahoma City and they were able to put all of the pieces together, and I think that just makes it even more gratifying. And we can talk about the fact that yes, the river still runs red. You did just beat Mike White and the Texas Longhorns twice in a row to win the national championship. I think that makes it a little bit sweeter, but. Adam, I think that you do have to give credit to Texas and the job that they've done. And also at the same time, because Patty Gasso talked about this in her press conference leading up to game 1, you almost kind of have to give Oklahoma credit for the reason why Texas is at the level that they're at right now with their softball program.
They got a lot better.
They got a lot better. Oklahoma, the sustained level of success and dominance that they've displayed over the last 2 to 3 years, it's forced programs like Texas, like Oklahoma State to really have to kind of adapt and, kind of change the way that they recruit, change the way that they coach, how they develop, because Oklahoma is the standard in this sport right now, and it's going to continue to be that way going into next season again.
I thought a good way to kind of wrap up this sort of celebration episode would be to talk about this senior class and what they've meant to the fan base and probably to us as well over the last 4 seasons. We went to Twitter and we asked for some responses about what they'll remember the most beyond just the titles, because that's obvious. They won 4 in a row. Even if they had won only 3 in a row, that would have been probably the most memorable response there. But got a couple of different ones I want to read to you, because some really good ones here from Nicolette Kane. Unapologetically themselves, no matter the outcome of games and how people talked about them. And of course, we see the most negative, just vile things that people say on social media, especially here this final week of the year, because they're playing at home. They're so excited. So yeah, they are who they are. They kind of block out the noise so well when they have every reason to be upset with the way people talk about them, the way they don't want to give them credit for the win, so on and so forth. So I love that one. I'll give you another one here from, I believe it's Kimmett Spears, just how inevitable they are. It happened tonight. There's a certain level of fear that every team has facing them. They were never out of any game and truly gave 100% every day. Couldn't ask for a better team to represent or root for. And like, that's been the joy of watching this team over the last 4 years. So I love what Kimmett had to say there.
They're unapologetic in who they are. They're unapologetic in how they play the game, the way they conduct themselves. And Adam, anytime that you're on a train like this where you're chasing excellence, you're chasing greatness, you're in the process of doing something that has never been done before, it's historic. There's always going to be people on the outside, whether it's the media, whether it's opposing teams' fan bases, that are going to constantly be trying to find ways to critique and pick you apart. There was a lot of noise about, Oklahoma celebrating the way that they do when they walk or when they get hit by a pitch. It's generating momentum, and it's getting a level of excitement out of your teammates, and it's trying to, essentially pass the bat, where you're just trying to keep that momentum going. That way you're able to, find ways to score runs and win ball games. Adam, I thought that the last comment that you read off there when they were talking about how it was just simply inevitable that Oklahoma was going to get this thing done. And we've seen it time and time again over the last 4 seasons, led by this senior class, whether it was the Kinsey Hansen, home run in the Super Regionals last year, where it kind of felt like, okay, this is make or break time. If they go to a game 3, I don't feel confident with what Clemson's got on the hill that Oklahoma's going to be able to overcome this. But time and time again, they just found a way. It's almost like a python just slowly squeezing the life out of you. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's a really good metaphor for the way that this team plays. And it's you might get your shot in, you might be able to score a couple of runs, and give Texas credit, give Florida credit as well for how well they were able to test this team. But make no mistake about it, the cream rose to the top, and Oklahoma was the superior team all season long. And when it mattered the most, they played their best softball, and they found a way to win the program's 4th consecutive national championship. It's unbelievable. And I do want to point out a comment here off of from Harry on Twitter. Party at Toby Keith's downtown. And speaking of Toby Keith, he's smiling from heaven right now. Harry, well said. You absolutely know it. TK is going to be looking down smiling. It's going to be a party tonight in Oklahoma City. Everybody be safe. Everybody pour one out for Toby. And if you're drinking something tonight, whether you're at home, whether you're outside celebrating, make sure it's in a red Solo cup.
Absolutely. 2 more I wanted to read from Twitter, and then we'll go to some final thoughts for the evening. Reformed Slice saying their incredible character and popularity. Specifically, he pointed out that at the tourney in Palm Springs last year, little girl softballers were lined up for autographs at their tent behind the outfield 10 times more than any other team, including UCLA. And so just the amount of people that are inspired by this team to go out and play softball, whether you're 10 years old or whether you're like 60 years old and you just want to go out and watch the games. I think it's the impact that they're having on the sport. Like, they are at the forefront of the reason that people are watching this right now. The reason that you saw the huge numbers on TV last night, I'm sure we'll get some huge numbers from the game too as well, but just the impact they have on the game. And then we got a lot of responses like this one that I'm about to read from KMAC 32. A lot of people just talking about their faith. But I think KMAC summed it up pretty good here, that, they never failed in any circumstance to give glory to God. And this team, very outspoken about their faith. If you want to hear more about that, you should check out our interview with Alyssa Brito way back in February at the beginning of the season, because she talked a lot about that and the impact that has on her life, how she approaches the game and so forth. But I think it just speaks a lot to the humility of this team, because they have, it'd be so easy to go out there and in post-game interviews right after hitting a home run like Jada Coleman did to win and go to the World Series, the other day. I guess that was Tuesday night or Monday night. I can't remember at this point, but she immediately is giving credit to God in that scenario. And it'd be so easy to say like, we're the greatest team. And that can tear our team apart. That can tear the fabric apart. And so it was amazing to see how quick and easy they were able to shift that focus away from themselves because they're playing for something bigger than themselves. And I think that's led to a lot of success just in, and that's so hard to do. Like so many teams that are great don't win championships. It happens all the time. And I think this team has a really good chemistry and I guess just humility about them. And it starts with their faith in most cases.
It starts with their faith, and it starts with what Patty Gasso has built since she's, came on board here at the University of Oklahoma, 25 plus years ago. And, Adam, you talk about this when you listen to these girls in their press conferences, and when you listen to like a Jada Coleman or a Kinsey Hansen in an interview, and it's very easy to be thankful when things are going good. But also at the same time, it's even more impressive when you're able to, kind of lean on your faith, and that regardless of if you strike out, if you give up a home run, if you lose a game, they really hung their hat on their faith, and they really, what kind of got them through this is based on the mindset and the mentality of, we know that what's going to happen is already written. So because we know that, it allows us to be able to go out there and play more freely, play for each other, and know that regardless of what's going to happen, the story is already written, and it's definitely inspiring. I mean, they're more than just softball players. They're more than just entertainers, to fans and, to young girls, young aspiring athletes that hope to play, college softball or college sports one day. But they're just fantastic role models, and Patty Gasso prides herself on being able to, take in a 4 or a 5-star recruit and be able to not just develop them into, an All-American type softball player, but, whenever they do graduate and whether they go on to play pro ball or play in the Olympics, or, they're a mom, they're a wife, they're a CEO, they're a lawyer, doctor, whatever they want to do, because they've been in this program under the tutelage of Patty Gasso, of JT Gasco, of Jen Rocha. They're that much better for it, not just as athletes, but also as young women. And I think that that's probably the thing when Patty Gasso, she talks about the book that she's going to write one day. It's not going to be the stories about what goes on, in the dugouts or in the practices. I think the thing that's going to be the most appealing to me, and what's going to be really exciting to watch, it's going to be her talking about the way that she approaches this, and how it's more than just wins and losses. It's how she's built this program. She's instilled a winning culture on and off the field, and really her being able to kind of do a deep dive on not just the struggles that they face on and off the field, but really kind of what goes into being able to take a team going into fall camp and being able to see what you've got, be able to mold this group, push all the right buttons, whether it's duct tape, it's super glue, but being able to find that right combination, push all those right buttons, and get this team peaking and playing their best ball at the right time, going into the postseason yet again for the 8th time in Patty Gasso's career now. She's a national champion, and it's been a hell of a lot of fun to watch. Sad knowing that this is the final game, and maybe that's how we put a bow on this, Adam. Throwing this back over to you, I'm not ashamed to admit it. There's been one time that I've got a little bit teary-eyed as an Oklahoma fan, or, covering this team or whatever, and it was watching Baker Mayfield walk off the field in Pasadena in the Rose Bowl. Got a little choked up, a little dusty out there. But I think that when you really kind of peel back the curtain on this and you look at the impact of, Jada, Tiare, Kinsey, Brito, Boone, and so many more seniors like a Nicole May that doesn't get the credit that she's, rightfully deserves, it is a little sad, because not just the impact that they've had on the University of Oklahoma and this fan base and college softball as a whole, but look at what they've done for sports for women. Yeah. Just in the last 4 years. I mean, it's unprecedented what this senior class and what this program has done in sports, and I don't want to see it end.
Yeah. It's sad to think that we haven't seen, or we won't see another Jada Coleman at bat in a senior uniform. We won't see Tiare Jennings or Kinsey Hansen. Speaking of players that need to go on and do something with the rest of their lives, I don't care what Kinsey Hansen does as a career. I just really want her to marry Kobe McKenzie, who she's dating, so we can get a Kinsey McKenzie name, which would be awesome. But But yeah, it's crazy to think about. Like, you won't see those players, but like pretty soon, those players that you'll be sad to see leaving will be Ella Parker and Cassie Pickering, who combined for 25 home runs this year. And if you think that this train is slowing down, like, it's not. Patty's going to find more freshmen that are going to do that. She's going to find more transfers like Kelly Maxwell or Alyssa Brito that are going to come in and dominate. And I don't know if they'll win, another championship next year, or if it'll take 10 years to win the next one. I mean, this is going to be just a force of a program that no one's going to want to play. So that's kind of my final thought. Tyler, you got anything else before we round out for the evening?
No, I think that we pretty much covered it. I mean, it's just it's so impressive. I mean, we've spent the last 3 seasons going into this year for trying to think of different ways to describe how impressive and how dominant this run has been for Patty Gasso in this senior class. And I told my fiance Bree, once that final pitch, once Kelly Maxwell got that final out, we've run out of superlatives to describe what this team, what this senior class, what this program, what this coach has done. Not just at Oklahoma, not just for college softball, but again for women's sports in general, and inspiring a younger generation. And it's been a hell of a lot of fun to watch. It's a great product. It's entertaining as hell. I know that's why, outside of the media, the people calling the game on ESPN, outside of them wanting Texas to win, they wanted to see a game 3 just because you don't want to lose. You just simply want more and more, as much of this as you possibly can. That's how we feel about the University of Oklahoma. That's how we feel about Patty Gasso and Oklahoma softball. So congratulations, girls. Fantastic performance, fantastic season, and it's a dynasty. There's no other way to put it. The most dominant run in college softball, and possibly the most dominant run in NCAA history that we just witnessed from this senior class.
If this is your first time catching the main line, we are live on YouTube, usually on Tuesday evenings on the Red Dirt Media YouTube page. You can find our podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts as well by searching the main line or Red Dirt Media there. Normally we go Tuesday nights. We did a little bit later this week to catch the end of the World Series. And so we'll be back in just a couple of days, actually, on Tuesday to talk about new kickoff times that are going to be released for the fall. We'll be talking maybe a little baseball then. We kind of keep it mainly football in the summer, but of course, love to talk other sports as well. So be sure to check us out there and follow us on Twitter at the Mainline Pod. We've got a couple of good tweets that are scheduled tomorrow. So make sure to follow us there. I still call it Twitter. I know it's an X, but everyone
it's Twitter.
It's Twitter. So thanks everyone for jumping in on the show this evening to celebrate the 4th straight national title for this Oklahoma softball team. We'll be back on Tuesday to talk anything that's going on in senior sports. We'll see you then.